panelistas fantásticos. Lástima que quizá el escenario no nos acompaña demasiado para tenerles a todos juntos, y por eso hemos pensado en dividirlos en dos grupos. El grupo de Allende de nuestras fronteras, el grupo A for Amazing, y el grupo B, que es el grupo de los españoles, el grupo B de Brilliant, de brillante. Entonces lo hemos dividido en dos. El grupo B acudirá después del grupo A, como acostumbra a ser, y entonces yo les voy a ir presentando a cada uno de nuestros ponentes extranjeros. Han hecho un gran esfuerzo por estar aquí con nosotros, por preparar las respuestas a unas preguntas que les voy a efectuar, y por lo tanto pues me gustaría muchísimo que cuando les fuera presentando, si me hacen el favor, pues les damos un gran aplauso, que se note que España es muy acogedora. Todavía no, pasan por... Primero les voy a hablar de Guy Parker, y cuando termine de hablar de él le pediré que me acompañe. Guy, el 19 de abril del 2013, se le nombró presidente de la Advertising Standards Alliance Europea, la EASA. Es la organización que, como ustedes saben perfectamente, representa a los diferentes organismos de autorregulación a nivel europeo, entre ellos nuestro Autocontrol. Guy es además el director ejecutivo del organismo de autorregulación inglés, la EASA, la Advertising Standards Authority, y ha desempeñado diferentes funciones dentro de él. Me ha gustado mucho saber, Guy, que te has encargado, entre otras, de la para mí muy interesante, has sido director del Departamento de Reclamaciones e Investigación. Yo creo que eso es fantástico. Por eso no quería yo apagarme el esto.
¿Y si quitas el móvil? ¿El móvil? ¿Si quitas el móvil?
No, pero el móvil no me llama.
No, es igual, quítatelo.
Ten cuidado, Stephan, que es un móvil. Es un móvil bueno, confianza. Bien, entonces, les decía que Guy ha sido, entre otras cosas, cocinero antes que fraile, como decimos en España, luego te lo explicaré, Guy, pero ha sido el director del Departamento de Reclamaciones e Investigación, y EASA es posiblemente uno de los tres organismos en los que se fijó, fue uno de los que fue émulo para Autocontrol, para la creación de Autocontrol. Al ser elegido presidente de EASA, Guy tuvo un primer recuerdo para las pequeñas organizaciones. Se marcó una estrategia de 3 años para conseguir que crecieran y contribuyeran a los objetivos de la autorregulación mundial. En enero de este año, y durante el desarrollo del 6º Foro Mundial de la Autorregulación, Guy detalló un documento muy interesante que le recomiendo: los 10 mandamientos sobre los cuales se debe trabajar para lograr una publicidad viable y ética. Guy es una persona entrañable, con gran sentido del humor, y de la que destaco algo importante para mí: fue el primero de los panelistas en contestar a mis correos. Por favor, Guy. Ahora les voy a hablar de Angela Mills Wade. Les voy a contar una historia. El autoritarismo del primer ministro húngaro, Viktor Orbán, inquietó en un momento determinado a la Unión Europea. Envalentonado por su indiscutible victoria en las elecciones europeas, el mandatario había comenzado una senda de políticas contra los derechos civiles, la independencia de los poderes públicos. Entre otras medidas, pretendía que se creara una tasa confiscatoria sobre los ingresos publicitarios de los medios de comunicación. Y entonces surgió Angela como directora ejecutiva del European Publishers Council, el EPC, que es una infatigable defensora de los intereses de la industria de la comunicación en Europa, una experimentada activista, lobista. Dijo entonces que la tasa supone no entender el papel de la publicidad para un medio de comunicación y para la sociedad. Es una medida injustificable y vergonzosa. Es uno de los ejemplos que he encontrado de la labor de Angela. Angela dirige la EPC desde 1991. Es una organización de relevante importancia ya que agrupa a presidentes y directivos de 26 grandes medios y publicaciones en Europa. Periódicos, revistas, libros, bases de datos, internet, móvil, incluso radio y televisión. Ángela fue la última en contestar a mis correos, claro, tanto batallar, pero lo hizo al final y brillantemente. Realmente he aprendido mucho de todo lo que me ha comunicado. Por favor, Ángela. Stephan Loerke. Stephan Loerke, tengo un problema, porque Stephan Loerke es un amigo mío. He tenido el placer de trabajar con él durante 15 años, ¿verdad, Lidia? Hemos podido trabajar con Stephan. Él, desde su puesto de secretario general de la Federación Mundial de Anunciantes, a donde llegó después de diferentes cargos en L'Oréal, París y Bruselas. Es curioso porque L'Oréal es una empresa que se repite bastante aquí en estos panelistas míos y en general. Siempre en sus charlas aporta algo nuevo y esclarecedor. En la última que le conozco, dada la semana pasada, nos dejó las 3 nuevas P's del marketing: propósito, principios y participación. Y todo ello con un fin muy interesante: que comprendamos que lo que nosotros creemos y deseamos y lo que la gente cree y desea es en muchas ocasiones totalmente distinto. Stephan busca algo tan sencillo como que gracias a las 3 P's seamos mejores. Él, desde luego, con la Federación Mundial de Anunciantes lo ha conseguido, extendiendo a 59 el número de países que la componemos. Nació en Suiza, pero realmente su patria es el mundo, con 59 países, imagínense, y lo demuestra hablando muy bien 5 idiomas. En el año 2000 fue nombrado uno de los top 40 marketingianos europeos. Cuando hay reuniones en las que estamos los dos, siempre procuro llevarle o que me lleve al aeropuerto. Y estos minutos son oro. Con ustedes, Stephan Loerke. Bien, Dominic Lyle. Tengo un pajarito que me ha contado cosas de ti, Dominic. Empieza a temblar, tiembla. Dominic es el director general de EACA, la Asociación Europea de Agencias de Comunicación, desde donde ha coordinado iniciativas muy importantes en temas como el desarrollo sostenible, la responsabilidad social corporativa, la obesidad, bebidas alcohólicas y desde luego autorregulación. Con todo, de lo que se siente más orgulloso Dominic es del programa de educación y de que muchos becarios de la EACA son ahora profesionales de éxito. Dominic estudió Derecho Internacional en la Universidad de Lausanne, trabajó 25 años en el mundo de la comunicación en Londres y Bruselas, y en 1994 en Bruselas creó una empresa de relaciones públicas ocupándose de los clientes internacionales. Actualmente es vicepresidente de la EASA. Dominic es un buen cocinero y de hecho durante un tiempo fue restaurador profesional. Se dice que fue una de las primeras personas en introducir el azúcar moreno en Italia. Dominic se emociona extraordinariamente con la ópera y este ratoncillo me ha contado algo grande que ya de por sí eclipsa cualquier cosa que podamos decir en el panel. Su mujer se enamoró de él al rescatarla cuando estaba a punto de caerse por un acantilado mientras esquiaba. Nuestro héroe, Dominic Lyle. Bueno, ¿y qué puedo hacer yo con estos 4 monstruos? Me voy a limitar a hacerles unas preguntas sencillas que voy a intentar ir reflejando aquí sus respuestas, porque the bad thing is that we don't have much time. We have planned before, we are going to make first of all the group, then we come the Spanish group, group B, and so I would love that just in 10 minutes, please, you would tell us 3 words that in your opinion better define the word of self-regulation in general. Perhaps, of course, you may want to give us a short explanation about them, if you wish, but remember, you have 3 minutes. Then I will ask you in a second step, in 1 minute, how you define in 1 word, or in a really short sentence, the challenge ahead for self-regulation. whichever. And that would be all for the moment. I would start with you, Guy. Would you please tell me 3 words for self-regulation?
Thank you, Juan Ramon. Can everyone hear me? It's a real pleasure to be here today at the 20th anniversary event. My 3 words are fast, independent, and effective. Fast, advertising self-regulation. I'm talking here about advertising self-regulation at a national level. I'm not talking, for all 3 of my words, I'm not talking about company self-regulation like the example we heard from earlier from Francisco, the code that they're developing. I'm talking about national self-regulation. It responds quickly to problems and it doesn't cost citizens any money. But crucially, it also responds quickly to the rapid changes that we're experiencing in our societies, driven by technological changes. Advertising self-regulation, when it's done well, is better able to keep up with the rapid pace of change that we are all experiencing and enjoying and are frightened by. Secondly, independent. Advertising self-regulation benefits enormously from industry buying and from industry funding, but it is effective because it maintains enough of a distance from the industry that sets it up and funds it. That independence is really, really important. And finally, effective when done well, and it's done very well in Spain. Advertising self-regulation is demonstrably good for people. It protects them against ads that might mislead, harm or offend them. It's also effective for business because it provides a level playing field. And it also provides an opportunity for industry to have an important say over how it is regulated. And that's important because industry is very often very close to consumers and citizens and knows what makes them tick. It's effective for politicians and regulators. It complements the law. We saw some figures in the earlier presentation about how it can provide really important savings to society. Money that's invested by the industry in advertising self-regulation can sort out problems that would otherwise have to be dealt with by public administrations, and that would cost taxpayers. And it's effective because it's backed up by sanctions.
Great, isn't it? Would you please give him the first applause? Thank you very much. Would you be so kind, Angela, now to tell us your 3 words?
You should all know that we were told not to confer in advance. We were asked not to compare notes. So I have 3 very different words, but I think some of them have the same meaning. So my 3 words are responsible, responsive, and credible. I would say responsible because in the media we take our responsibilities for editorial accuracy, authenticity and so on very, very seriously, and the advertising that we carry likewise. So having, going to my last word, a credible system is incredibly important. Responsive in the sense of to consumers, but also to the political wishes. There are many things going on in Brussels that impact advertising and advertising self-regulation. So it's really important that we respond to those in a responsible way, but also responsive to change. And at the moment we face a moment of massive change.
Thank you very much. No tengo que decirles nada. I don't have to say to you anything. Now, please, Stephan.
My 3 words are win, win, and win. Win for business, win for regulators, and win for consumers. Self-regulation, the term self-regulation, too often outside of this room, is understood to be a system which benefits ultimately business. I'm not talking only about our industry, I'm talking generally about the impression. And our system, advertising self-regulation, works, is effective, and we've seen it again with the figures this morning, because it looks at the three. And it's only by being a win for the three that our system can ultimately deliver on its promises. And so win, of course, for business, because it makes life so much, in a way, easier. It sort of avoids disproportionate regulation. It helps get the advice needed to get it right without exposing the brand. Win for regulators, and we have an excellent example here in Spain, where the system is ultimately taking lots of the burden off the shoulders of the administration. In today's economic environment, that is a very significant contribution. And win for consumers, even if you can't put a figure on it, I would argue that this is by far the biggest win of it all, in the sense that it helps actually make our presence a responsible presence, which ultimately reflects societal sensitivity. So win, win, win.
Very well. Thank you very much. Dominic, now is your turn to cook something for us.
Okay. So, when I got Jose Juan Ramon's email, I was lying in a hammock on a beach on the other side of the world. And I have to say, it didn't seem terribly important, which is why I was so happy to respond. But when I got back to Brussels, I realized just how critical this is. So I have 3 words for you. And they are essential, game-changing, and work in progress. So essential, because if advertising self-regulation didn't exist, we would have to invent it. It is clearly such a benefit, as Stephan has pointed out, everybody wins from it. Game-changing, because I think over the last 10 years particularly, if you look at legislation in Brussels coming from the European Commission and through the Parliament, self-regulation has not only raised its profile substantially over that 10 years in terms of the mentions of legislation, but also you can track the changes between the beginning of a proposal of legislation of the Commission and the final draft, which goes into law, has substantially changed thanks to the efforts of industry and to self-regulation. It's becoming recognised. Work in progress, because although in this room we sit around saying, aren't we doing a wonderful job in helping everybody, we have to remember that there are disparities between the system, not just in Europe, but across the world, and we need to work much harder to make sure this is something that happens around the world and supports advertising in the future.
Thank you very much. You have just the time, exactly the time. Now, I would ask you one word to define challenge ahead for self-regulation. In just one word, if it's possible. Stephan, could we start with you?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, because now you could talk about plenty of things. No, food. You could talk about digital. You could talk about data privacy. You could talk about alcohol. But I think I would pick one, which is alternative policy option. In the sense that if our system is to be sustainable, to flourish in the future, we need to achieve a proper recognition by policymakers that what we do can be a meaningful contribution which is factored in policymaking. If it's not, there's going to be a moment where the industry is going to be running out of steam. And no, I think Spain is a very good example. I think we've made big progress also in Europe. But there are still many countries where there's still a question mark on whether all the stuff we do, ultimately, is being factored in by policymakers and ultimately makes the policy framework something which is more proportionate and which ultimately builds on what we do rather than ignores it. So I think the key challenge for us is to make sure that what we do becomes a credible policy alternative, so that it actually encourages the industry to go further and take on the new challenges.
Sometimes we confuse here in Spain the word alternative with option, and it's not the same thing.
No,
alternative is just a thing.
Exactly.
An option, there are many possibilities.
Yeah, it's a regulator, when he has a problem, looks at possibilities to fix it.
Great.
We want them to consider self-regulation to be one of the options in order to be fixing issues, rather than ignore it and just draft it.
Great, Stephan. Dominic, would you please give me a word?
I borrowed a word, I'm not sure it is a word, but anyway, it's a word that's used a lot from marketing, which is globalization. Globalization, because I think the challenge we have is how to bring self-regulatory systems, not only the ones that exist, but the ones that will exist around the world, into a kind of harmony that presents a consistent image of self-regulation, at the same time not losing national, regional, cultural and business specificities within reason. So I think that is going to be the biggest difficulty that we have.
Great. Lyle, please.
I've cheated here. I've got 2 words. Globally, I think the big challenge for advertising self-regulation, or a big challenge for advertising self-regulation, is keeping pace with technological change. Not trying to get ahead of it, because that will kill innovation, but not falling behind the pace of technological change. I think for Europe, there's also a big challenge in slowing down and hopefully reversing a decline in many markets, many major markets in Europe, a decline in trust in advertising. And we see that in Europe, and it isn't prevalent to the same extent in other regions of the world.
Great. Angela, please.
Mine's also globalisation and the challenge that that presents to everything that we do. We've seen in the work that we've done on OBA, online behavioural advertising, the really significant challenge of bringing new players, new companies who themselves are global, into something that we were all familiar with and all comfortable with, and realising that they hadn't a clue what we were talking about in terms of our values and our standards. And a good part of the first tranche of work that we did was in really helping them to understand what we were doing and why we were doing it and why it was important. And this is not easy, and it is not over. And I think the biggest challenge that we have, and really agreeing with all of my colleagues here, is to how we continue to deliver high standards and responsive self-regulation in the future.
Thank you very much. Well, as you notice, we are celebrating our 20th anniversary. So, yeah, I know that's a tricky question, but I would like to ask you for a word that responds for autocontrol. What means the autocontrol, the Spanish autocontrol for you? You are not going to say that it's a lousy organism, but maybe you can manage to give me an intelligent answer, and at the same time keeping your dinner tonight with us. Would you? I'm not going to write down your answers. For instance, Guy.
This is quite an easy one to answer. We're all, I'm sure I'm speaking for my panel members, so we're all really impressed with what Autocontrol and the Spanish industry and the various partners it's worked with has achieved in the last 20 years. It's quite inspirational. So my one word is a winner.
Thank you very much. Angela?
Exemplary would be my word, but I'd also like to add one for Jose Domingo himself, and that would be visionary, because he was the one who brought the industry and the self-regulatory bodies together to create new EASA, as it was, and he is the one at the moment who is looking ahead to create our international organisation. So that's a great lead from Spain.
Que alguien le recoja la baba. Bien. Excuse me. Dominic.
Okay, so I wrote groundbreaking because I think what has been achieved here in Spain, particularly in the last 6-7 years, it's just amazing. And if you look at the map of what's happened, there's obviously a point at which it became serious, and it's just gone sky high.
Groundbreaking is innovation, could be.
Well, it's innovation, it's avant-garde, it's thinking about people, it's leading, it's all the things, everything that everybody said. Problem with coming last is that everybody said it and you want to say it first.
Stephan.
I think I would pick a song from Tina Turner, Simply the Best. That was part of the plan for tonight. more seriously, I think that I would call it inspiring, in the sense that I'm looking at what it means beyond Spain. It proves that you can actually start from scratch in a country like Spain in 1995, where there's basically nothing, and you can build what we have here today. Because I don't know, 50 employees, and you see the figures, impressive. Which means that if you have the right people, if you have the right motivation and vision, and if you manage to get the support of the industry, you can actually make it happen. And that's a very, very important lesson for us as we look at globalization of startups.
Maybe you will remind those words. Each time you leave me, I start losing control. You are walking away with my heart and my soul. I can feel you even when I'm alone. Oh baby, don't let go. In a Turner song.
That's what I meant.
And that's it. No pain? No pain? Yo sé que adorarían ustedes hacerles preguntas. Vamos a ver si al final de todo lo conseguimos. Ahora me gustaría mucho